Hi there, happy Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen today. I'm very excited to be sharing with you 2 meal prep recipes. So this is a little bit different of an episode or class today. Normally I do Sundays at 6:30 p.m. where we cook a healthy, balanced dinner from start to finish in under 30 minutes. But today we're switching it up a little bit and doing some meal prep. And so these 2 recipes are going to give you breakfast and lunch for the entire week. So the breakfast that we're going to do today is a pumpkin spice oatmeal recipe. So we're just going to do the base recipe so that you have that on hand to kind of scoop out each morning as you need it, and then you can top it with all of those wonderful things that you enjoy topping your oatmeal with, like fruit, nuts, coconut, chia seeds, honey, maple syrup, whatever it is that you want to top your oatmeal with. But having that base on hand that's already cooked so that you don't have to cook it the morning of is a huge time saver, and it's going to help you eat healthier during the week. The other recipe that we're going to do is a fall vegetable and grain salad. So we're going to use barley, mushrooms, kale, and onions. We're also going to use some fall fruit, apple. We're going to throw some apple in there along with some feta cheese and then chopped pecans. So it's a really, really nice salad that's easy to make and store in the refrigerator and will last you all week long. You can eat this salad for lunch as it is, or you could pair a little bit more protein with it, like maybe some hard-boiled egg or some chicken, or beans, even whatever you have on hand and whatever you feel would go really well with it. But again, this just takes another step out of the process of figuring out what you're going to have for lunch during the week. So if you are cooking with me today, go ahead and get out all of your ingredients. So what we're going to do first is start with the grains. So the grains are going to take the longest to cook. So that is going to be the steel cut oats and the barley. And where did I put my barley? Because I wanted to show you my barley looks a little bit different than a traditional barley that you might have found at the grocery store. This is a black barley, which actually I've never cooked before, but I'm pretty excited to use it. You don't have to use the black barley. You can use pearled barley or whatever it is that you found at the grocery store. So let's go ahead and get these 2 things started. Hey, Kathleen, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Are you meal prepping with me today? Let me know. So what we're going to do is head over to the stove and get these grains cooking. So let's first do the oats. So go ahead and get out your pot, place it on the stove. Again, I've got 2 pots here for both the barley and the oats. And I know in the recipe or in the ingredients list, I put 1 pound of steel cut oats. If it's just you eating this, you probably don't need the entire pound. I would just do half of a pound. If it's 4 people or more, definitely do the whole pound. And like I said, this is going to last for 7 to 10 days in the refrigerator. So even if you have a little bit of extra, it's not a big deal. You'll just continue eating it. So I am going to do just a half pound of steel cut oats. We'll go ahead and pour that in. Let's turn on the heat to about medium. And then we're going to go ahead and pour our liquid in. I like to use milk. It gives it a little bit creamier of a texture. It adds a little bit more nutrition, vitamin D, calcium, potassium. And so what we're going to do is you can follow the instructions depending on how much you're cooking today. It's very easy to just follow the instructions on the back. So if you're using 1 cup of oats, you're going to want 3 cups of liquid. We're probably going to double that in here because I've got a little bit more than 1 cup. Honestly, I just eyeball this. So what I do is just pour enough liquid in to really cover everything. Give it a good mix, a good stir, because these steel cut oats are going to absorb a lot of liquid. And you know, if you check it periodically and you find that all of the liquid has been absorbed by the oats, but they're still not cooked, just go ahead and add a little bit more liquid. Okay, so in this, we're also going to add our spice, which is that pumpkin pie spice. If you don't have pumpkin pie spice, you can use any combination of cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, clove, nutmeg. Hey, Diane, thanks for joining. I almost missed you. I know, time change. Hi, no, but I do need to meal prep. Going to do it later, but I'm curious about your prepping. Yes, steel cut oats is a big one for us in this house for sure. What do you like to meal prep? Because I know you do it a lot too. And if anybody else that's watching does meal prep, please share with us what it is that you like to meal prep for the week. It's always fun to get new ideas, kind of switch things up. I think we all often get into a rut of eating the same thing over and over. So the other additions that we're going to add into the oats right now, while the oats are cooking, are raisins. We're going to add a good handful or two of raisins. These work as, obviously they're a very nutritious food, but they're also a source of natural sugar, right? So they're going to naturally sweeten the oats. We're also going to chop up or dice up 1 apple and throw that in there. Again, as I mentioned, the pie spice, we're going to throw that in. And then we're also going to throw in about a handful or 2 of almonds. So these are the things that we're adding right now. And then, of course, because this is a pumpkin pie spice, we're going to add pumpkin, canned unsweetened pumpkin, but we're going to wait until the end to do that. So let's go ahead and add in the raisins, the almonds, the pie spice, and then we'll come back over here and chop up the apple and throw that in. I'm going to do 2 handfuls of raisins. This is going to have such a beautiful fall flavor, the pumpkin spice, the raisins, the almonds. For the pumpkin spice, start with a tablespoon of the spice. If you like it very, very heavy on the pumpkin spice flavor, you can add a little bit more than that. But I will say that cinnamon and clove are pretty potent, overpowering flavors if you add too much, and it's really hard to take that flavor away. So start with a little and then add more as you go if you want that extra flavor boost. All right, 2 handfuls of almonds. Stir that up. And then what I also add in here is a pinch of salt, just to help deepen the flavor of everything. Kind of helps bring out the natural sweetness too of those sweet flavors that we're trying to create in this oatmeal. This is going to be so good. You could also add some vanilla extract in here if you wanted to, if you've got that on hand. That's a nice addition. Okay, we're going to put a lid on this, let it cook. We'll check it periodically and stir it periodically because we've got, a lot of, obviously the heat source is coming from the bottom, so a lot of times the bottom will cook faster and it'll cause the oatmeal to stick to the bottom and then burn. So we just want to be aware of that and avoid that at all costs. But leave out your liquid because you might need a little extra. Excuse me. Okay, so then let's get the barley going. So with the barley, again, you can follow instructions on the back of your package. So mine says, I think this might be to cook this whole container, which I don't know if I want to cook it all. So 5 cups of water or stock. Oh, this is for a cup of the barley. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I think I am just going to do a cup of the barley. And I'm going to get out my measuring cup because, again, I've never cooked black barley before. So I really have no idea what to expect with this. I will say, if you picked up pearled barley, yours will cook a lot faster. All right, let's turn the heat on the back there. Get this barley heated up. I'm going to add liquid. In the ingredients list, I suggested a stock. So I'm going to use this bone broth here. I like to use stock when cooking grains because it just adds a little bit more flavor to the grain, so it doesn't just taste kind of like nothing. Sometimes I think grains taste like nothing. Okay, so this is 32 ounces, so this will be 4 cups of liquid, and I need 5 cups, so I'll just do a cup of water in here as well. Right. Let that cook. Let those grains cook. Does everybody like barley? Have you had barley before? What do you eat it in? Give it a stir. We'll put a lid on it. So I can tell that oatmeal is already starting to cook. I can see little bubbles kind of forming on the outside, and I can hear it starting to simmer. So let's go ahead and give it a stir. When you start to hear that, again, we just want to try to avoid it from sticking to the bottom. And sometimes that will happen, and mine probably will a little bit, so I'll show you what I do to fix that. Oh, it smells so good. I've already had oatmeal this morning for breakfast. I might have it again for lunch. Hey, Sarah. Good to see you. Are you cooking with me? Are you meal prepping with me? Okay, let's go ahead and chop up that apple, because we're going to throw bits of apple in with the oatmeal. Again, this is going to be one of the best oatmeal recipes you've ever had. We're also putting apple in that barley salad. So go ahead and just get out both of your apples right now, and we'll just chop them both up right now. Diane says she loves barley veggie soup. Me too. You know, I've actually never made it at home. I always just get it out at a restaurant. Maybe we should try making that. That sounds really good. Okay, so this is how I like to cut my apple. If you have an apple core, that's great. You can use that to get the core out. If not, I just simply cut around the core. And then slice the pieces that you've got left over like that. And then I flip it over and do a cut halfway down lengthwise just to make it a little bit smaller. Flip it back over and then dice it. So then you have a nice dice. If you want bigger chunks of apple in your oatmeal, then you can cut them bigger. This is completely based on preference. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that with the rest of these guys. You could also switch up this recipe and do pears. Pears would be really nice. They're also going to be in season for fall. Oh, hi, I'm not. Just wanted to join in on the fun. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Love it. So Sarah actually cooked that loaded miso soup the other night, and she sent me a picture, and it looked amazing. I love seeing you guys cook these meals, these nice, balanced, healthy meals, and more importantly, that you actually enjoy them. I think eating healthy gets such a bad reputation. People think that it tastes bad, but it doesn't. It actually tastes really good. You just have to know how to do it, right? Notice I'm leaving the skins on the apple. There's lots of fiber and antioxidants in the skins of fruits and vegetables, so I really do try to leave them on as much as possible. Of course, there are some things where you need those skins off, but for this, we're leaving them on. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll throw this. Actually, let's just go ahead and I'll chop up this other guy here while I'm at it. I'm going to do the same thing, kind of the same size, for the veggie barley salad. Does anybody have an apple orchard near them that they're going to visit for the fall? I keep hearing a lot about an apple orchard around us here in Peoria that everyone likes to go to pick their own apples. They also have like apple cider there. I think they might also have apple cider donuts, which is very appealing. All right, last piece here. Sarah said it was so good. I actually made extra. Oh, and froze some. Awesome. Let me know when you like defrost it if it held you know, its shape and its consistency, because I've actually never thought to do that. I haven't frozen that recipe before, but that's a great idea. I know I'm going to be doing a lot of that once I approach delivery, because I'm usually the one that does most of the cooking around the house, and I'm assuming that once I have a baby, that's going to be put on hold for quite a while. So I think doing some meal prep and freezing meals is probably a good idea for everybody, for everybody's sake. All right, I'm just grabbing a bowl here. Okay, I'm gonna scoop Tanner's. Yeah, that's what it's called. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it. I'm gonna put these apples in this bowl here, and I'm just gonna transfer all of this to the oatmeal. Diane, I'm assuming you've been to Tanner's. Anything I should know? Anything I should do? Maybe some must-dos at Tanner's. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. I hope you can see everything from there. It smells lovely. Well, there goes the barky dog. Okay, this is good. Once you see that everything is kind of bubbling up, we can turn it down. Let's turn it down to a medium-low or a low heat. Again, just slow cooking everything. All right, that barley's still not coming up to a boil. I'm gonna increase the heat just a little bit. Yearly jaunt at this time of year. Yes. Sarah, I was wondering too, but I have frozen soups with chard in it and it worked out well. Awesome. I just did the broth and veggies left out. We'll add the noodles and tofu when I eat it. Smart. Yeah, because the noodles would probably get kind of mushy and not so enjoyable. Good. Smart thinking. Well, it's hard to walk out with money left in the pocket. Okay. I'll remember that. Although I'm always prepared for that to happen when I go to those things. So I'm okay spending a little bit of money especially because it's local, and I always like to see farms with local produce growing. I like to see how they do it. David and I recently went to one in Michigan where my parents live. We went to a blueberry farm, and it was enormous. Blueberry bushes everywhere. I didn't know there were so many varieties of blueberry bushes, and I always feel like I learned something new at those things, so always fun. Okay, I'm going to put the apples back in that same bowl that I used, the rest of the apples, because again, these are going to go into that barley salad along with feta cheese. So we can go ahead and just start adding everything into this bowl. I'm gonna do roughly half of a cup of feta. You can always add a little bit more at the end if we want to. I'm also going to do pecans. I'm going to chop these guys up a little bit. These pecans are already toasted and salted. So this just cuts down on the amount of salt that I'm going to add to the total salad. But I also prefer roasted nuts over raw nuts, for taste reasons and actually for nutrition reasons as well. A lot of times raw nuts will have something, a component in there that doesn't allow your body to absorb nutrition. So actually eating the toasted nuts is healthier than the raw nuts. Go ahead and throw these in the bowl. Wonderful. So we've got our nice texture additions there. We're gonna get that crunch in the salad from the from the pecans and from the apples. Okay. And then what we're also going to add is some raw red onion. We're going to try to thinly slice it so that we don't get a huge chunk of red onion, because sometimes that can be a little off-putting in a salad. So if you don't really like that, just try to slice it or chop it as thin as you can. If you don't mind it, then it doesn't really matter the size. So let's go ahead and get our red onion out and do that now. And we just want about 1/4 cup of that red onion. So I'm using roughly 1/4 of this giant red onion. And I might even just use half of this piece. So I'm just going to try to thinly slice this. If you have a mandolin on hand, that will help get it as thin as possible. Or if you've found that you've cut them a little too thick, you can always just run your knife through a few times and dice up the onion. So I am going to dice mine. I'm going to come through now and get small pieces of red onion. Raw red onion can really add a lot of nice flavor and nutrition to your dishes. But again, like I said, it can be overpowering. So just try to make sure that you're cutting it small. Wonderful. Okay, we'll get that in the bowl. And then we are actually going to cook the mushrooms and the kale just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get out a saute pan. We've got our mushrooms here. I've got some baby Bella mushrooms. You can use whatever mushrooms you like. Whoop. Uh-oh. I hear something on the stove. Okay. Run. Awesome. Look at me. It didn't boil over. Give this a stir. Again, trying to prevent everything from sticking to the bottom. Cool. We're going to let that barley do its thing. My barley is going to take a while to cook. It might take closer to 30 minutes. So we'll see. I don't want to keep you guys on here too long just to wait and watch barley cook, because that's no fun. So my oatmeal right now is sort of sticking to the bottom. Again, I'll show you what I do for that at the very end. These oats are looking good. They're not quite fully cooked, and they've soaked up almost all of the liquid. So I am going to add a little bit more milk to this. I'm going to add about another cup. Give it a good stir. Oh yeah, we're going to have oatmeal for days, which is a beautiful thing. It's going to be already prepped and ready for you in the morning when you need to eat it. Don't have to cook anything. You can just microwave it, or you can eat it cold if you like cold oats. If it's still warm wherever you're living, you might prefer the cold oats compared to hot, steamy oats. Okay. I'm going to crack the lid on this. I'm just going to let the lid off of this guy, let him cook. Let him continue to cook. All right, back to our mushrooms. Let's go ahead and chop up these guys. I'm just going to slice them. And I'm going to use a damp paper towel to just wipe off any dirt that I might see on the mushrooms. These guys are actually pretty clean. And if you enjoy raw mushrooms versus cooked, you could just keep them raw. I just personally prefer them cooked in this recipe. Hey, Lindsay. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Just chopping up some mushrooms here. You could also use shiitake mushrooms, are really, really flavorful. And they're a nice addition. You could do portobello mushrooms. I'm just going to give these a quick slice. They do tend to reduce in size, in volume when you cook them. So I don't want to cut them too small because I don't want them to get lost in the salad. I do like biting into mushroom. Okay, Okay, let's go ahead and get that saute pan on. We'll put a little bit of olive oil in there. About half a tablespoon. Let that come up to heat. Put our mushrooms in. And we'll also get that kale in there as well. I'm going to stir this oatmeal again. Really does need to be stirred quite a bit. Quite frequently. So for those who are just tuning in, we have steel cut oats in here with apples, almonds, raisins, pumpkin pie spice, and then we're going to add some canned unsweetened pumpkin to it in a little bit. Oh, and there was one thing I wanted to talk about in regards to oats. So I get this question all the time. People are like, well, what oats are better to eat? There's like steel cut oats, there's rolled oats. So if oats were on a spectrum of nutrition, the steel cut oats would be at one end considered to be the most nutritious. On the other end, we would have instant oats, so those prepackaged instant oats that you can buy at the grocery store. Those are going to have a little bit of nutrition in them, but they've been so highly processed that they lose a lot of the vitamins, the protein, and the fiber in them. And so they tend to spike our blood sugar a lot higher than the steel cut oats, because the steel cut oats are the least processed of all of the oats available. They retain much of their B vitamins, protein, and fiber. And research shows that they don't spike blood sugar as high as the instant oats. So then somewhere in the middle, we have the rolled oats, which is probably what people are used to the most. So these are literally, they've been rolled, right? They're flat. They don't take as long to cook. And while the steel cut oats are more of like a whole grain, right? They're harder pieces. They take longer to cook. So if you're like in a bind and you need breakfast quick, I would say just go with the rolled oats. If you're just making like a single serving, or even you could still batch cook with steel cut or with rolled oats if you wanted to. But just to kind of clear up and answer the question that I get a lot, which oat is healthier? It is the steel cut oat. Then next would be the rolled oat, and then at the very end would be the instant oat. Okay, let's get our kale chopped up. So we're gonna put the kale in with the mushrooms. I'm just gonna cook it for a little bit. If you need to wash your kale, go ahead and wash your kale leaves right now. Sometimes there are little critters hiding in the leaves, like caterpillars and other bugs. So I'm gonna give these a quick rinse. We're actually gonna leave the stems on because we are cooking the kale. If we were gonna keep the kale raw, I would say take the stems off because they're just a little chewy and fibrous. And they can sometimes be a little bitter. So if you don't like that, then just take the stem out. Okay, so I'm just gonna run my knife through this. And this kale will cook down quite a bit. Again, with this grain salad, we want to try to get a nice half and half ratio of grains or carbohydrates to vegetables, just to help balance energy intake. All right. And if your pan is overcrowded like mine, do not worry. It'll all cook down. I'm gonna let that cook for a couple of minutes before I try to move everything around, but I am gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper to this. Again, starting to just build some flavor. And these leafy greens are so good for preventing heart disease. The folate and B vitamins in dark leafy greens can actually help lower homocysteine levels in the body, which we know increase our risk for heart disease. So people who have had heart attacks and strokes before, at the hospital, we see that those people have high levels of that homocysteine in their blood. And so what's interesting about vitamins is that having B vitamins, especially folate and B12, can help lower homocysteines, therefore lowering your risk for getting a heart attack or a stroke. So it's pretty powerful stuff. So really try to get those greens in on a daily basis if you can. Especially because cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in the United States, especially for women. Looking good. Barley looks good. Okay, let's check out these oats here. I think my oats are done. I'm gonna turn the heat off. Let's give it a stir. And then let's go ahead and add in that pumpkin. We're gonna start, I'm gonna do half of a can of the pumpkin. And I think I might add a little bit more of that pie spice. Hey, Jessica. Just hopped on. What you making? We are meal prepping 2 things. So one of them is a pumpkin spice oatmeal recipe to have for the entire week for breakfast. And then the other one is a fall vegetable grain salad. So we're doing barley with mushrooms and kale. And then we're also throwing in some red onion, apples, feta, and pecans to mix in with that. So this can be a really quick, super quick salad that you can have on hand for lunch during the week or dinner if you want. You could pair it with chicken, fish, beans, anything like that. What did I come over here for? Oh, pumpkin. Pumpkin. So we're gonna go ahead and throw, like I said, half of a can of pumpkin in here in the oats. Right. And I want to make sure that you get actual like canned pumpkin, unsweetened, not the pumpkin pie filling. There's just going to be other additives and sugars in that you just don't really need. You can always naturally sweeten your oatmeal, kind of like what we're doing with the apples and the raisins that are cooking in these oats. That will naturally sweeten it. And then if you feel like you need extra sweetener, as you scoop out and portion your oats, you could drizzle a little bit of honey or maple syrup in there. Oh, this looks so good, you guys. And it smells wonderful. It's turning orange. You get that nice orange pumpkin flavor. You know what? I'm going to just go ahead and add the whole can of pumpkin in here. I've got a ton of oats, so I think that pumpkin flavor might get lost if I don't add the whole can. If you're wondering if canned pumpkin is healthy, yes, it is healthy. It's a great source of vitamin A, great source of beta carotene, which is actually needed for the production of vitamin A in the body. Beta carotene is a powerful, powerful antioxidant that research shows has the potential to stop the growth of tumors, specifically with breast cancer and prostate cancer. So lots of good stuff in those orange vegetables. Beta carotene is also found in dark leafy greens, so like our kale, we've got some beta carotene in there. Awesome. So I mentioned earlier, if you find that your oatmeal is sticking to the bottom of your pot, all you have to do is, once it's done cooking, turn the heat off, put a lid on the pot, and just let it sit for like 5 minutes. And the residual heat and steam inside will help you lift the oatmeal that's stuck to the bottom off of the bottom. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Oh wait, I wanted to add more pie spice. Just a little bit more. my gosh, it smells so good, you guys. I'm making a huge mess. All right. Lid on. Let's stir these guys. That kale is starting to wilt, which is nice. These mushrooms are cooking up. Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna put this pan over here on low. So put your kale and your mushrooms on low, and we'll just let those slowly cook. This barley is not really looking like it's going to be done anytime soon. Again, I've never cooked this type of barley before. It's a black barley. Well, actually, let me taste some. Let's see. It kind of looks like it might be close. If anyone else is cooking with me, let me know if your barley is done. Oh, this is almost done. Nice. Okay. I feel a lot better about that. However, notice how much liquid I have in the pan? There's no way the barley is going to absorb all of that liquid. Interesting. So I have to say, there have been many times where I have followed instructions on the back of a package and they weren't correct. Like for oats, even sometimes if I follow the liquid to oat ratio and there's either not enough liquid or too much liquid. So I feel like that's happening right now with the black barley that I have never cooked before. It said for 1 cup of barley, use 5 cups of liquid, which sounds like a lot. That barley that I tasted is almost done. I don't think it's going to absorb any more of that liquid in there. So I might have to actually drain the barley. So if that happens to you when you're cooking, don't feel like you screwed it up and it's your fault, because sometimes it's the manufacturer's fault and it didn't work the way that they put on the instruction label. So again, it's just experience. Jessica's saying, I've been eating a lot of oatmeal lately. Love doing overnight oats. Ooh, that's such a good, yes, good idea, good suggestion. If anybody's never done overnight oats before, you would essentially put all of the ingredients that we just put into our oatmeal into like individual jars or containers, put the liquid in there, pop it in the fridge, and let it soak overnight. And voila, you have oats and oatmeal for the morning. So yes, wonderful. Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining. Good to see you on. Do you love pumpkin spice oatmeal as much as we do? And yes, she's saying, love raisins in my oatmeal with a little bit of maple syrup. So good, right? So good. What kind of oats do you use, Jessica? Just curious, when you do your overnight oats. Oh, Sarah, sounds so good. I'll have to remember that oats recipe if it ever cools off down here. Yeah, it's like, what is it here? It's like 60 degrees, 60-ish degrees here in Peoria right now. So a little more enjoyable weather to be eating hot oatmeal. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat off of this kale here. And I'm gonna do one more little bite of this barley because I think it might be done. And if so, we can go ahead and throw everything together. It's nice and chewy. I like that. I'm calling it done. Okay, we're gonna drain this bad boy because there's so much liquid. It's crazy. So crazy. Colleen, what are you doing watching? Aren't you supposed to be at brunch right now? Jessica, just Quaker quick oats, but I've been wanting to try it with steel cut. Yeah, I've done overnight oats with steel cut. I do find that they have to soak a little bit longer because they are a more intact whole grain, so it just takes longer to cook them and soak them. So normally if I want overnight oats for like tomorrow morning, for example, I would start it now instead of at like, 6 or 7 p.m. tonight. So just giving it about 6 extra hours than you normally would, I've found has been a pretty good rule of thumb for the steel cut oats. All right, get the rest of these guys out. So if you are cooking with me, your barley is probably done and cooked perfectly because you probably used regular barley. So what you can do is go ahead and add that barley into the bowl with your apples, your onion, your feta. I'm going to go ahead and do that now as well. So for those of you who are just joining, red onion, pecan, chopped apple, and feta cheese is in my bowl right now. I'm going to go ahead and add the grain, the barley, and we're also going to go ahead and add the kale and mushrooms. We're going to stir it up. We're going to dress everything with a balsamic vinegar and olive oil dressing. Very basic, but I love this salad because it hits all of your food groups too. You've got a whole grain in here, you've got vegetables, you've got fruit, and then you've got protein from the pecans and the feta cheese. If you really wanted to up the protein, you could add beans. Beans would be really good in here, like chickpeas, or even like white cannellini beans would be good. So good. This smells delicious. Beautiful. All right, like I said, a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Fresh herbs would also be good in this. So I'm gonna just drizzle about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil and about a tablespoon of the vinegar. And everything is going to soak up all of these flavors. And it does hold quite well. So the kale is going to be a heartier green that's not going to get too soggy or mushy as the week goes on and as you store it in the fridge. If you were to use spinach, I would say to only make enough to last you like 2 or 3 days, just because spinach will wilt, especially if you dress it and then stick it in the fridge, and then it gets a little too mushy. So look at this. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. Very excited about this salad here. The black barley adds another color in, which looks really nice. I'm gonna give this a taste right now so I can see what it tastes like. It's probably really nice while it's hot. So you could make this for dinner tonight too and have it for dinner and then store the leftovers. So many different flavor profiles in here too. Saltiness from the feta, sweetness from the apple, savoriness from the vegetables and the grain. Yeah, it's so good. So I'm just going to stick this in a big Tupperware container and we'll have it for the week. Yum. All right, last thing, let's just check on the oats here. Oh, beautiful. I noticed that when I try to scoop off the bottom, those oats are coming up. So, like I said, if your oats are stuck to the bottom, put a lid on it, let it sit there for about 5 minutes, and the heat will help to lift those oats off of the pan, and then you don't have as, dirty of a pan to clean, right? There's nothing worse than trying to get food stuck on the bottom of your pan off. So this helps with that too. Okay, yum! So what I want to do, we want to let this cool off before we package it and put it away. So You could transfer this into like a wider bowl or a dish and let it cool off that way, or you can just kind of let it hang out here on the stove off of the heat and let it cool off before you package it up. But one thing I want to say about the oats is, again, you would scoop out about a cup and a half for your breakfast in the morning. And then you want to top it with other things because you want to make it a little bit more balanced. You do have a little bit of protein in there from the almonds and from the oats themselves, but you do want a little bit more each morning when you have this. So sprinkling on, additional nuts, maybe peanut butter or chia seeds would be great plant-based sources of healthy fats and protein to add to the oats. Or you could add something a little bit more like bulky and bioavailable, like yogurt. You could top it with yogurt or maybe some kefir. Or you could have an egg on the side, something like that. You just want to make sure that you're getting a good balance of carbs and proteins and fats in the morning. So definitely top those oats with some of those extra additions. All right, well, that's it for the meal prep for today. So we have some really great breakfast and lunch options now for the rest of the week that are quick. Let me know if you have any other meal prep ideas or suggestions or things that you'd like to see. We might continue doing this once a month on Cook With Me TV. So thanks guys so much for joining, and I will see you next week. The schedule is posted on our Facebook page, so check that out. It's only going to be 2 more classes for this month because I will be out of town for my dad's birthday on another weekend. So come join me next Sunday. Next Sunday we're doing a chocolate poblano chili. Really, really good. I know it sounds strange, but it's delicious. So come join me for that show. I'll post the ingredients soon. And have a great rest of your Sunday, y'all. Bye.